Today I will be showing you how to build an ultimate coffee and habit tracker. I built this for myself because I drink a lot of coffee and I want to keep tabs on that, and I also do some other habits like walks, exercise, no food after 6 p.m. and flossing. Those have different requirements, so I've decided to build on my own a template that would be ultimate coffee and habit tracker, keeping me tabs on these stuff. And I'm gonna show you how to do it in this video, so stick around, it's gonna be pretty awesome. So as you can tell, you could actually track how many coffees, how many walks you do compared to your daily goals, and once you actually meet those goals, they will be checked as done. This is a little bit different than all the other habit trackers that I have seen outside, which typically track the activities if you're doing them or not. And actually you can have different goals per different days. Now, this was my current habit tracker, and this was the habit tracker that I have built for myself. It's just a regular old habit tracker, where when you do an activity, you just check off the button and it's done. And it's then either checked or not checked. I needed a more nuanced approach than this, and that's why I have decided to go and create the ultimate habit tracker. I'm gonna first document my habits. So I would like to have 3 coffees per day, walk 1 to 2 times per day, exercise 2 times per week, no food after 6 p.m. daily, and floss daily. Yeah, floss is a skill that I'm still working on. So let's create a new page called Ultimate Coffee and Habit Tracker. And we're gonna add an icon because I'm a firm believer in making all of the stuff pretty, and to save you some time, I went on the internet, I have found some art that actually helped me out. By the way, this was AI generated in Canva. First off, I would like to go with heading. I like to create a heading, and then we're gonna put it on the green background, because I really like this black and green backgrounds, highlights. It really gives a sort of, relaxing and cool vibe, which habit tracker should have. So I figured first we're gonna be putting the habits, and then we're gonna be putting the database. We're gonna be calling this one HabitsDB, and we're gonna hide the title, and we're gonna rename the table to make it a little bit more appealing. We're gonna be putting the entry, because this is the field where we will be entering data. Then I'm gonna create a callout, and I'm gonna just dump those in. This is our actually first table, and this is the place where we will be logging the habit. Now, let's put these habits on the side and let us just go and document the habit. We have property name. This will actually be a day. It will be a day in the calendar. It will be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and whatnot. So then we're gonna be going with the first important field, which will be the date, because we do want to track which date this habit has occurred. And we're gonna go with the full date, and since I live in Europe, we do like our 24-hour AM and PM, just confuse me to bananas. You can change this in the setting of the actual template if you would prefer different. Now, I'm gonna go by setting first the coffee actual. Coffee actual means how many coffees did I have per day. Then we will be duplicating the property, and we're going to be calling it coffee goal. So this will be the coffee daily goal, and it will be customizable per day. So for example, some days we could have more as a goal, some days we could have less. And then we're going to be creating a check mark, which will be coffee. So once the coffee actual has fulfilled the coffee goal, coffee check mark will be checked. So from that perspective, it will be behaving as the same as the regular old habit tracker. So let's go into setting up the next habit. This is the walk actual and the walk goal. Same thing. I like to go on a walk at least once per day, preferably twice. So my walk actual will be saying how many times I've done it, while the walk goal would be what's my goal for today. For let's say Saturdays and Sundays, I'd like to keep it casual. We do 1 walk a day, and otherwise we do 2. Then we're gonna be duplicating things, and we're gonna go with the exercise. So we are now on the exercise. Now this one is gonna be 2 per week, but we're still gonna track it. So exercise actual and exercise goal. Right now we are just adding the habits. So we have an exercise, duplicate the property, and we're gonna be saying exercise. This is also a check mark. Why, you might be asking why I'm creating all those fields. It's all gonna make sense once I actually reduce the amount of fields. But for the actual amount tracking, we need this much. Then we're gonna be adding the new type of property, which is no food after 6 p.m., which is gonna be a checkmark property. It's a true/false. So either I didn't eat food or I ate food after 6 p.m. So And the same thing goes for flossing because it's like once per day. So now we're going to move this away to have a better track of our table. Now, I want to be filling this table with some example data. This will help us orient in terms of what information we need and how are we going to approach this. So let's say date, on the date of this recording, it was February 28th, and I'm going to be putting coffee actual. Let me see, let's put a coffee cup. I'm a firm believer in making things beautiful, so really aesthetic wise it's really important. So coffee, we're gonna put the same. I don't care if we have twice the same icon, but I do care that the icons match what it's supposed to be. So walk, let's say walk goal. I like the walk goals to be a little bit circled. Then what do we have? Then we're gonna have exercise goal. We can use the same one here. And then no food after 6 p.m. We could set apple or something, and the floss we could set the tooth. I think I saw a tooth there. Yeah, cool. So this is how our data will look like. So let's try and input some data. So let's say coffee actual 1 out of 3. Then we're gonna say walk actual, I did 1 out of 2. And then the exercise, let's say I'm a little bit of a lazy bugger, so I'm gonna put 0 out of 1, and then no food after 6 p.m. and floss. Okay, good. We have our sample data checked. Let's put another day like Thursday, so we're gonna be setting up the day before. Coffee actual, I had 3 out of 3. Walk actuals, I did 2 out of 2. Exercise, I did 0, yeah, out of 0. And no food after 6 p.m. and floss was completely done because the day has finished. And we're gonna be putting one more. Bear with me. I like to represent my data with the stuff that was gonna be when I use the template, because this helps me create better functions and have a better overview of everything that I wanted. So, right. So now we have enough data. We have 3 fields that will give us some sort of overview. Now, coffee checkmark, it's not going to be checkbox, but it's going to be a formula rather. So we're going to edit the formula. So we're going to say, okay, if coffee actual is more or equal to coffee goal, then it's going to be true, otherwise false. So that means the checkmark is going to be checked if we drank more or equal to the amount. Same is gonna go with the walk, except we're gonna do with if walk actual greater than or equal to walk goal, then set the value to true, otherwise it's false. So that's the second place, and the third one is gonna be with the exercise. So that's how you actually set up those goals. So we will be able to have an overview in terms of check marks, whether or not we have succeeded in meeting our goals. Exercise actual, true, false. So these are our progress. So I want to add another field that would be taking into account our daily progress. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding another field, and typically daily progress in all of the habit trackers. I'm first going to show you how it's being counted daily progress in habit trackers, and then we're going to implement our own. So typically you would take the checkbox field, so we were going to go coffee to number plus, we're going to say walk to number plus. So this is actually a regular old function that you're using in pretty much every single habit tracker that uses checkboxes. This is how you actually collect those goals. And this would actually give you a statistic of how many goals were fulfilled. However, this is not the best way to do it for our habit tracker because we have numeric values. For example, we have 1 out of 3. So coffee is not fulfilled, but it's still halfway there, or 1/3 of the way there. So that's why I'm thinking that the daily progress will not be representing accurately on the actual state how it is today. So as you can tell, daily progress percentile, we set it to bar. So you can see, for example, coffee actual out of 3, it's 0 progress, and that's a little bit of a problem in my opinion. So if you think about it, we have 100% progress on the coffee actual for the Thursday. So we're gonna go and do the better daily progress, and this is another way how we can do it. However, it has its also ups and downs. I'm going to show you multiple ways how to set up the daily progress counter, because it is up to you how you want to track it. Now we have coffee actual divided by coffee goal. That will give us a percentage. Then we have walk actual divided by walk goal. Plus, we could do exercise actual versus exercise goal. Plus, and then we add basically no food after 6 p.m. to number, and the other one is pretty much the same as we did, the last time. So this would give us a, decimal number, and this we divide by 5 because we have 5 habits. Now, this is not perfect either, so here is me coming back from the future and telling you the best way to approach this. So the best way to approach this is you want to be summing up all, and it's actually almost the simplest. So if you think about it, you're adding coffee actual, you're adding walk actual, and you're adding exercise actuals, plus no food after 6 p.m. to number, plus floss to number. And we're going to be dividing that one by their goals. So above we have all of the successes, or, the actuals, divided by all of the goals. So this is divided by coffee goal, plus walk goal, plus exercise goal, and instead of this one, we're going to have +1 because the goal is 1. Right. So if we take that formula and we save it, then we're going to be showing that as a percentage with a bar, and if we take like that, then that one will be a much better percentage. So that one will be able to help us accurately track daily goals, and you're having a little bit of a snippet preview how it actually works in terms of both successes and fails when it comes to calculating of all the data. So we're going to be showing the daily progress, and we're going to be showing the averages. So here you go. This is how the graph looks like when we were building our daily goals. So back to the history. Now, when we were building this better daily progress, yes, we have developed it, and just remember, I've shown you what the best way to do a daily progress is. So the next thing you want to do, you want to duplicate the daily progress, and you want to make it a chart. Why, you might ask? Because it looks nicer when you set it as a ring and you remove the number, because then you get these progress rings. And those progress rings look actually really cool next to the days. Yeah, see? I thought it looks kind of cool, and you want to have those showing up nicely. Now, what we want to do is we're going to be duplicating now the view. So instead of all of these, I want to have a more concise track on my habits. So how we're going to do, we're going to have a concise view, and there we're going to get rid, or we're going to hide all the fields that we don't need. We want to see all the check marks here. So we're going to just hide. So this is sort of, think of it like a summary view, and that's going to boil this extended tracker down to the regular tracker. So you can still have the legacy view in terms of, you'll be on the same page, but it has a much more powerful math behind it. Now, having said that, we're gonna be hiding in view the check marks that we don't need here, so we only keep them for the places where they're relevant. Yeah, so this is, so think of this table like the data entering table, but we are gonna make it even cooler. We're not even gonna be manually entering the data, but we will be pushing the buttons, and those buttons will be adding up to the amount of habits that we are done. And that part is a little bit tricky today in Notion in now, what was it, February 2025? I would like to have an incrementer, but there is another way of tackling this. So first things first, we're going to be sorting this by day, and we're going to be sorting, so let's say for everybody, and we're going to be sorting it. So let's start building the templates. So the templates will allow us to have individual goals per day. So we're gonna say, first off, I'm gonna be hiding all of the properties that I don't want to be showing off. So I want to allow the template to only show the goals, because you can define the goals, but the actuals you're not gonna be defining. So no need to show the values that we cannot influence. It just makes the page more messy. If you clean them up, it's gonna look more cool. So we're gonna be saying this is Monday. So for Monday, I'm gonna have the icon, let's say orange date. Right, Monday. Coffee goal, I like 3 coffees, I like 2 walks, I'm gonna put 0 exercise. I'm thinking exercise-wise, I'm probably gonna go with, let's say, Tuesdays, Thursdays, maybe? I don't know. But this allows you to set individual, and the date you always want to be setting today. So the date when you actually create a new instance of Monday, then it's when you get the date. So now we duplicate it, and then we're gonna create Tuesday. Tuesday, we're gonna make same goals, except with the exercise goal of 1. Then we're gonna duplicate this, and you get the gist. We're gonna be duplicated for every single day of the week, which I might just skip through the magic of video editing. Alright, so we're coming up on Sunday, and we want to have the Sunday a little bit more casual, a little less walks, a little less coffees, and obviously exercise. So we're gonna, actually Sundays, we're getting ready for the week, might as well take the 3. So once you have all the templates, all for each day of the week, you want to be setting that those days will be an example of template. So Wednesday is going to be an example of Wednesday, just to make sure that they adhere to this template. Then we're going to be taking Thursday and Friday, just making sure that our test data is reflecting the actual stuff from the template. Cool. Now, we're also going to fix the sorting. It's going to be by, I think, date, and we're gonna be making it descending, so it's basically going backwards. This ensures that we always have the most relevant data on top. We have created our first habit tracker component. Now, the next thing that we want to be taking is we want to be creating and putting these on repeat. So all of these days you have to put on a repeat. So we're gonna say Monday repeats every 1 week. And this is actually the magic of Notion. So it will be generating goals for us every day. It's starting tonight, it's starting basically tomorrow at midnight, and it's never gonna end. And every Monday is gonna create another goal of Monday. Okay, then we do the same procedure with Tuesday and every other day. Just be really careful that it repeats every 1 week on the day it's supposed to be happening. And then you say, Wednesday repeats every 1 week on Wednesday, Thursday on Thursday. So just be really careful. And I'm always tempted to say every day, because if you set every day, then it's not gonna work. It has to be every 1 week, right? So be really careful about also which day you're setting, so you don't get Monday on Wednesday. I mean, that would be basically a killer. Imagine on Wednesday saying, oh, today's Monday. I mean, I'd be shocked. So we're gonna be putting every week, and there we go, Sunday. Fine, cool. So that actually defines that all of these will be generated automatically. You don't need to do anything. The days will be happening, you just need to basically fulfill your, goals. Right, so we're also gonna be grouping those stuff by, I think, date, and we're gonna say gonna group it by week. So we do get a little bit of weekly results in terms of how are we doing this week, how many goals have we met. And I actually like that my week starts on Monday because, well, I don't know, but Sunday I still consider the old week. I don't know, that's just me. The next thing that we want to set up is to give you an evaluative feedback of how well are you doing per week. So we're going to be putting here, and we're going to say count. And actually we're gonna go more options. I think it's gonna go average of daily progress, I think. Right, and it says 60%. That's what the value that I was after. So this table is almost complete. So time to make the new tables. Or actually maybe better that we go with the chart. So first let's go and create the chart that you saw in the beginning. Now we're gonna say this chart is based on the habit database. And it's supposed to be showing date per day. Yes. What to show? Count. No, not count. It's gonna be showing averages, but group by, no, not group by, range auto. Let's go more style options. I would prefer it to be smooth line and with some data labels. Right. So we're gonna rename the chart. We're gonna say daily goals. How many of them have they met? And we're gonna put the icon of daily goals. So the next thing I want to be is creating the header. So we're gonna create heading 1, and that heading 1 is gonna be put against the green background, so it fits nicely with the aesthetic. I want also to put the emoji icon for the chart. So let's see, do I have a good chart? Yeah, there it is. Or actually daily goals, maybe that's even better because it shows us, check a box. So we're gonna remove the title from this guy, and let's put another call out because we're gonna be dumping all of those in a call out. Right. All right. I think that makes things look a little bit better. So if I just place it here, look how nicely it looks. We got our little habit tracker and the daily goals. You might want to fine tune in terms of height and everything else. However, we still have a long ways to go. We have to do and add the buttons that will be populating this, and we need to have a supporter database, because if you want to have an incrementer, it's going via the incrementer database, and that's a little bit difficult in today's terms. First of all, we're gonna be saying we will need to construct an additional databases. And typically, as the common practice is nowadays, if you want to hide a database in Notion, you enter and create a toggle list. So we created helper databases, do not delete, and also we will start to create buttons. First of all, I actually start to go up there writing some text just to make sure that I have spacing, and now let's go create the button. So the new button will be taking care of, first we'll take care of the habits that are binary, so true or false, which is no food after the 6 p.m. And then we will be taking care of the more advanced ones. For the basic ones, we don't need that much. So when the button is clicked, we want to edit the habits.db and not edit all pages, but add the pages where first we want the no food after the 6 p.m. button to be checked, but we want the date is today. So basically, once you click it, we're gonna be editing the pages where the date is today. So see, once I clicked it, the date is today and it has been modified. Good. So the same thing needs to be done for the second one, which is the floss. So we're gonna duplicate this one and we're gonna be calling it the floss. And then the same thing, we just need to create the floss and checked. Cool. So once we checked floss, and it works. Perfect. So now we have taken care of the regular habits. Now we need to take care of the coffee, walk, and exercise habits, which are incremental. So now the goal is every time we click a button for those two, we need to increment the amount of coffees drinked or walks done or exercises done by 1. And sadly, since there is no an incrementer in Notion at the moment, devs, please add one if possible. We're gonna be creating a supporting table, which is called additions. So hab add db, habits added tracker db. Yeah, and that one we're gonna hide. So the goal of this one will be tracking all of the button presses done during this day that are related to either coffee or walk or exercise. So as you can tell, first we're gonna be introducing a new type, which is called habit type, which will help us differentiate between those clicks. So habit type will be a select type property, which we will be defining what are the options are. So if we go to edit property, we can say, okay, it's a select, right? And we need to add an option. So first will be coffee. And yeah, that option is 1. Then we're gonna add the second one, walk, and the third one is gonna be exercise. Right. Oh, exercise, I would like it to be a little bit blue, walk is green, and coffee is orange because, well, yeah. Of all the 3, coffee is the least healthy habit, let's call it like that. So, right, so this table will be actually then modified. So once we have fixed the coffee actuals, which we're entering right now, are gonna be replaced by a formula that will be counting the amount of the entry or the additions to this database. So beside the habit type, we need to add a date, because date will be telling us which day it is. So add date, so it's the date at which a new row has been added. Right. So now we want to say, okay, we need a button that will be adding that date. And yeah, Here we need to create a relation between those two tables, so we need to have additions. And this will actually be a relation back to the original helper database, habaddb, with no limit in terms of how many they can be added, right? Because we will need to be able to count. And it's a two-way relation where the related property type is going to be called day, right? Okay, fair enough. Now, with the relation being set up properly, we need to enter, let's put in a test data. We're going to say coffee, add date is today, the habit type is coffee, and the day it has been added is Friday, right? So the dates are matching, as you can tell. Then we're going to say walk, date is today also, we're going to say it's a walk habit type, and date added is also today. Right. So now what should be happening is we are also populating the additions in the habits database above. And I will be showing it briefly, but let's first add another coffee on the day before, and we're going to call it on Thursday, and it has been marked as a day Thursday. Now this bottom table will be populated automatically, and as you can see, we can see them in the additions above. Right. So once the data is in, we're going to be setting up templates. So the templates, we need a total of 3 templates. One is coffee, second is walk, and third is exercise. So add date, it always has to be today. The day we will be setting up later, and the habit type coffee. So I put this nice cute icon, and the day, I thought I could have it populated here like, you know, by the page added, but no. This is a template. So yeah. So add date is today, and the habit type is coffee. Cool. Fixed. Now we have to create 2 more templates. Now we're gonna duplicate this one, and we're gonna call this one walk or exercise maybe. We're gonna put this little cyclist. I mean, ultimately we're never gonna be looking at that database, so we don't really need to care how they look out, but I always like to make them beautiful because beautification is kind of important thing. It's really important that the database has a nice aesthetic. So now the walk one, actually pedestrian, yeah, I kind of like that one. Cool. Right, so with our template set up, now what we want to make sure that the coffee is type walk, walk is type walk, sorry, coffee is type coffee, yeah, I haven't drank coffee and that's the problem. Yeah, see? Okay, so we have additions and they look kind of nice. So now we're gonna be adding the next property, which will be the additions count. However, we need to replace the coffee actual with the additions. So that's the idea, coffee additions. We're gonna call it for this. I'm going to really step by step so that you guys can follow along, because some of those things are not really that intuitive. If you have any questions, do post them in the comments below. But the point is that we want to see additions. For the coffee additions, we need to filter it. For the additions filter, current, where habit type, we have to convert it to string because it's a select property, format equals to coffee. So we're going to input to coffee, and hopefully it should say that it's 1 length, right? So if you look, both of them have coffee count 1, and that is the correct data. Now we're going to duplicate this one, and we need to have also the walk additions. So walk addition. All right, edit property, and then we just replace this one with walk. Cool. And you can tell, you see, now this is important. That's why I was actually doing a lot of, you know, data adding so that we could immediately debug and see, yeah, this properties are correct. We need to now go to the exercise additions, and the exercise additions are gonna be calculated in the same way. Right, so edit property, edit formula, it's not walk, it's exercise. I just have to make sure that I have spelled it correctly. Right. So those 3 fields will be replacing our current actuals, what we call coffee actual, because those are actually programmatically now being added. And we have to update our formulas both for the check marks and for the daily progress and the circle one. So, all right. coffee actual with coffee addition, and coffee goal is the same. All right, we need to just make sure that we update. Hold on, I'm actually missing a field. Let's just put walk addition beside the walk actual and exercise addition beside the exercise actual, so I don't lose them. Got it. Cool. Now I am missing now those check marks that we have hidden, but daily progress. Okay, let's first take care of daily progress. Daily progress is, well, I've already shown you once in the future how I fixed it, but now I'm showing you just that I needed to replace the coffee actual, which was the manually put in, with the coffee addition. Later, I'm gonna rename it to be called coffee actual. I'm a big on refactoring, so I design first, I populate it, and then I rename it to make actually more sense. Sorry for that. Now, edit formula. Now, coffee actual, we're gonna say, okay, coffee addition, walk addition, exercise addition. Yeah. And that means that we are fixing the the habits up there. Right. Sorry, my camera is flipped, so I'm a little bit confused. Now, right. So now we need to fix these check marks because they are also taking into account coffee actual. So if coffee addition is higher than the coffee goal, it's the same thing for the walk. We just replace actual with additions. It's just a matter of the field change, and then we can actually delete the actual fields and then rename it everything to actual. Yeah, easy, right? So exercise addition. Cool. So those are additions, so they are no longer actuals. And as you can tell, the amount of data has corrected according to our entries. Right. Okay, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna delete the property, correct, and we're gonna delete the walk actual, correct, and we're gonna delete the exercise actual. There we go. So now we're gonna rename it to coffee actual. Yeah. As I told you, I like to do things in steps, just making sure that I'm not making mistakes in the process. So exercise addition, yeah. Because actual does make a lot more sense than everything else. Right. So now in the main fields we need to still revamp in what is being shown. So we don't want to be showing a lot of fields. When it comes to additions, we definitely want to always hide. Coffee actual, hide. Walk actual, hide. Exercise actual, hide. Right, so we only want to have the goals and the check marks visible if you open a specific page. It's just a matter of usability what everything needs to be filled. So as you can tell, I'm now just making sure that all of my templates are correct, and they are. So there's no need of anything else. So I've hidden also the additions, and the background machinations will now be working regardless how we make it. Now, I think it's time that we put the helper database into a callout. So we put heading 3, we just give this database a name, additionsdb, so it still does look nice. Needed for the additional adding coffee, walk, and exercise. It's really important to stress out that this database shouldn't be deleted because then all of your progress will be lost. So that's why I'm creating it a separate database, I'm putting it in a callout, I'm making it look nice, despite the fact that it's debug, and I'm gonna be hiding it in the helper database, do not delete. Right, now we have our daily goals back, and yeah, so that's how it looks. Right, okay. Now, I think it's time that we also start making buttons. Now the first button is definitely gonna be coffee because I really need some coffee and it's my favorite one. So we're gonna go with where is my coffee cup? Yeah, there we go. Says he while he's drinking water. Thank you. So add a page to the head at DB as coffee. The name is gonna be coffee, and we need to add the section where after that we're gonna be editing the pages in the habit DB, so the top one where the day or the date is not relative but is today, right? And then we will be editing a property, additions. So we're doing a little bit of a reverse. Additions will be not replace with, but add, because if you add replace, it's going to be deleting your previous success, the page added. So first we add a page to the helper DB, and then we refer to it from the habits page, just to make sure that we know that this is an addition. If we now click the coffee actual has increased, our daily goals have increased, and it has been added to the helper database. Perfect, see? Everything works right out of the get-go. Cool. 3 times clicked and the coffee mark is checked. So even the coffee check mark is working. Good. Time to duplicate and actually create the walk and to create the exercise template or the button. So add it as walk, name it walk. What a shocker, I know. Right, and additions, everything else is correct. So, right, walk, we just correct the icon and let's click the walk. And we have met our daily walking goals by clicking on the walk actual. See, we have the debug, everything seems to be working correctly, beautiful. Right. Alright, so the next order of business is to add the same button for the exercise. Now the exercise are gonna be done by putting them a correct icon and then title exercise. After that we're gonna be changing the template being used is the exercise, name is gonna be exercise, although technically name is not necessary here. But once again, okay, let's see if we click, we have the exercise actual, exercise goal we have 1. So let's see, if we click the exercise, the goal should be fulfilled. Now there are multiple ways how you can align it. You can either have those buttons spread out on top of your dashboard, but that's not really mobile friendly. So my favorite part is actually, I'm going to create a small call out where I'm going to be grouping all of those habits so that on mobile can also work well. Now we're going to be creating a heading. First we're going to create 2 columns. And then we're going to be creating the floss, everything. I've just reverted everything how it was before. So we're going to be creating 2 columns and, or actually, wait, hold on. Shouldn't it be 3 columns? Yeah, 3 columns, right. So one will be the navigation with all of the habits listed. The second one will be the habits DB and the third will be the daily goals. So now let's create the heading. That heading we're going to put a green background as we do on all of our templates. Then we're going to call it shortcuts. And we're going to add a nice custom emoji. I typically like to put, you know, a thumbs up or the check mark or something like that. Yeah. So this is the shortcuts. And then I'm going to create a small call out where we're going to be dumping that one. All right. And then we're going to be putting buttons one by one. Coffee, walk, exercise, no food after 6 p.m. in the order how they occur during the day. And then we clicked floss. Yeah, go figure. Okay, floss we needed just to correct to be a tooth. Right. Okay, deleting the empty space and it looks kind of nice. So now we have 3 columns, so we need to drag this one to be the second column in terms of habits and the daily goals to be the third column. Now we need to adjust a little bit the length. We can actually delete the text above. Sometimes I use this text as a placeholder to tell me where do I need to drag and drop stuff. Now habits, I actually am looking for the possibility to shorten this a little bit because no food after 6 p.m. is way too large. But okay. The one thing that I'm thinking, first thing what bothers me is the blue line on the chart when it could be the green one. Let's go with the height. We're gonna put this one to smaller height. Now look how nicely it aligns with everything. I think it actually looks a lot better. And the second thing is we're gonna be eventually changing that blue line to be the green line. So it's aligned with everything else. But first, let's create the gallery now. The gallery shall tell us, it will create a view where we will be able to see the today. So card size, we're gonna put small, and I want to create some sort of previews, like what did we do, what we didn't do. So we want to be putting additions, so not additions and coffee actual, coffee goal. And if you look at it, it doesn't really look that compelling. Coffee goal, exercise, it's just buttons and numbers. So that thing is not really suited for the gallery presentation. I think we're gonna need to create, well, this kind of works. The daily progress does work, and the progress bar means we will be able to do that. The date, hopefully, yeah, that could also work pretty nicely, especially if we'll have multiple days. We're gonna short it and condense it to the day, but for the time being we need to create a couple of more fields, and those more fields are gonna be report-like. So right now we're gonna create an additional field, which will be heading 1. We're gonna create additional callout, but let's say emoji, we're gonna call it calendar. Yeah, and we're gonna say today. Right. Let's put a green background as well on that one, and we're gonna create a small callout where we're gonna be putting that thing in. So, gallery, cool, and now we're gonna be putting the gallery view. Let's see, copy link to the view, right? Paste it, and link database view, nice. So we have separated out in a separate view, and I'm thinking where I'm gonna be placing. I'm thinking either we put it above, something like this. I was thinking initially to putting it together with the daily goals. So filter by date is not relative today, but is today. However, to this today field, if we only add the numbers, they don't make really a lot of sense. So what we want to do, we want to be adding sort of like a progress report. We want to be adding exact fields which will tell us how far along with our habits and the amount of coffee that we have drunk. And later on, if you stick to the end, we're gonna do something really cool where the color changes depending of how many coffees or have you drunk. So we're gonna do coffee reports. So first things, we're adding these reports, and then the next step will be making them fancy. Right, so what we're gonna do just now is we are creating this coffee report. So we're gonna say coffee, semicolon, space, and then we're gonna say coffee actual, so that we know how many we have had, plus of, and then we're gonna say coffee goal. That way we know that we have had 2 out of 3 coffees that we planned today. And we're gonna style this one, we're gonna say orange, because coffee is not, let's say, a too benevolent habit, if you will. So you can see coffee, 2 out of 3, daily progress report, 73%. So now we're gonna duplicate the coffee property, and we're gonna do the same for the walk and for the exercise. So if we add walk, we're gonna just change walk to the walk actual, and coffee goal, we're gonna change to walk goal. And then we're gonna be doing the exact same thing with the exercise. Except we're gonna be stylizing them maybe green, blue, we'll see. Alright, so now that we have all of those numeric values that we wanna have, we can actually start adding them to our daily report. So it's time that we start adding those reports to our tracker. So we have the daily progress, which is currently just the 73% and a bar. So let's start adding daily progress report. You have 73%. Coffee, 2 out of 3, exercise 0 of 1, and then we have the loss and no time, no food after 6 p.m. So here we have actually our check marks, which are actually displaying much nicer than actual reports that we have done, because those say true, false. These with check marks actually look kind of cooler, I think. We have coffee, exercise, oh, and I've forgotten the walk. I guess I should be adding that. Thinking about it, actually this daily progress to me looks better than the daily progress report. I'm actually gonna keep the 73%, and we need to add the walk goal. So now we're gonna be doing the next thing, which is actually having these guys change color due to the amount of the coffee actual that we had. So this is now some advanced stuff if you really want your template to be looking awesome. This is something that I personally like to do. It requires a little bit of extra effort, but it's, in my opinion, it's well worth it. So we're gonna be going with adding formula, and that requires us to do actually defining of variables using let's. So we're gonna say let's, and the usage is let's, then you say put the variable name, then the value, and then the expression you want to use it to. So we say let's, and now we say coffee string is. So coffee string is this exactly what it's stated below. So this thing, coffee plus coffee actual, is the coffee string. So we're gonna be copying that. Yeah. So that's the coffee string, and we're gonna be removing that. And based on the amount of coffees that we have, we are gonna be stylizing that. So alright, so first let's test out like this. See? It looks the same. That's the same way of writing what we just did. Now it's amount of customizing that we will be introducing it. Now, so we have those definitions, and we're gonna say now, if, first of all, let's move this downwards, and we're gonna be saying coffee we perceive as a bad habit. So the less coffee we have, the better. And we have a total of 3. So we're gonna be setting like 3 steps. As little as possible, which is green, then a medium amount, and the top amount, which would be red. So if coffee actual is less than 2, which is basically if we only had 1 coffee. But let's go, if coffee actual is less than round of half of the coffee goals that we have. So if we have had, let's say if your coffee goal is 4 and you had less than 2 coffees, you're good. So if your goal is to have 5 coffees, it will be green as long as you had less than 2, or 2 or less. And then we say coffee style will be green. This will actually ensure that we are using multiple strings. So then, if it's not that, so this will be a complex if string, so you have to be careful. So if, then we say coffee actual is less than, and here we're gonna be saying coffee goal. So as long as we are more than half of the coffee goal string, but less than a total amount of coffee goal string, coffee string is gonna be stylized orange. So that means it's neither good or bad, all right? So we consider it to be like that. And then if it's not even that, then if coffee actual is higher or equal to coffee goal, then coffee string is gonna be stylized red. So this is a sort of a string how you can use to have having a visual feedback from the amount of coffee that you had. Some think it's an overkill. In my opinion, I actually find it to be pretty cool because, I don't know, I just like the aesthetic of it. And here we put, if it's none of that, coffee string is gonna be blue, but that's a non-possible value because coffee string blue, well, it's never gonna happen. It's either less, in between, or more. It cannot be anything else. Just making sure that we have everything closed, and look at this. Coffee, 2 out of 3. Now if I add 1 more coffee, it's orange. Oh, sorry, it's red. Meaning that I have fulfilled my daily coffee goal. So we're gonna do now exactly the same with the walk and the exercise, except we're gonna make it in reverse. Because if you haven't fulfilled your goal, then it's red, but as you increase in steps, it's gonna be, orange and green. And then I realized, okay, so now we want to do the same thing what we did with coffee, but we want to do it with walk report. So now I'm gonna blatantly copy all of this, and then I'm gonna be replacing it in the reverse order with the walk value. So edit, formula, we're gonna be replacing everything. So now let's walk, and here we need to replace walk actual, And then we have to replace this walk goal. So you have to literally replace all of the values. So if walk actual is less than half of walk goal, then we want to be putting the string to be red. And oh, it's not gonna be coffee string, it's gonna be walk string. So yeah, let's just correct this. So it has to be red. It's not coffee string, it's a walk string. So yeah, then we have to replace walk string everywhere. Here, 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 and there. Cool. Now if we have walked less than half of our goals, it's gonna be red. If we have walked less than total amount of coffee goals, it's gonna be orange. So let's say walk goal is gonna be orange, and that's good. And the last one is if walk actual is greater than or equal to walk goal, then it's gonna be green. Otherwise I leave it blues just to know it's not like, and I walk 2 times, so see, walk is actually green. I actually really like this approach because it gives me a visual feedback and it also motivates me to actually do more things. So now I'm gonna just copy paste it and we're gonna use it for the exercise. And through the magic of video editing, I just ensure that I have fixed the exercise goals, right? It's the same as the walk goal, and you can see exercise is red because I haven't exercised today and I should have. And then I noticed, oh, holy moly, we have a walk goal that is missing there. So I need to add this. Now, where is my walk report? Yes, walk. And they are listed as how they appear during the day. Walk, exercise, and look, when I press exercise, it turns to green. Yeah. All in all, I hope this actually, you guys like how it looks. I mean, for me, I think it looks cool. And here we can add all of those things also on the report. So we can actually add now. What can we add? We have date, we have daily progress, we have coffee report, we have exercise and walk report. No food after 6 p.m. and exercise. Perfect. Now that leaves the only thing that has been bothering my OCD, and I don't know if you guys have experienced that. We need to fix that all of these 3 are at the same level because it's bugging me to no avail. I'm sorry. And the only way I can think about it to do it is that we actually create like 3 columns. And for one is going to be like the sidebar with the shortcuts, and there's going to be today and daily goals. So we're going to do just that, I think. Now, shortcuts, today, and then the daily goals. Now they're finally level. I just make sure that the shortcuts is done like that. Cool. Today we only need 1 entry, so it doesn't really need to be that large. Habits, I would like to have it grouped somehow. So toggle we're going to be put below, and actually, I think that actually looks kind of cool. Do let me know what you guys think. So now, if you have added all of the things that we described, you want to be pressing those buttons and you will be increasing the values. So that actually works only for the day where it is today. But what if we wanted to implement an additional tip and we forgot to log in the walk for, let's say, Friday? Well, it's not actually possible to check that checkbox because it is, well, it's a formula. So how do we approach this? Simple. We're going to be creating an additional button that is going to be triggering the automation for this specific page, and it is, let's call it Add Coffee. Now, when it comes to Add Coffee, we're going to be putting the coffee icon, coffee cup, and we can obviously edit the automation. We're going to be doing the same thing for the Add Walk and add exercise. So, but let's first edit the automation. Adding page to have add DB as a coffee, and we are editing a property which is going to be day, where we're putting the day as this page, the page that triggered the automation, because that will be putting the back reference to the actual date. And then we have the habit type is actually coffee, and we have the add date, also the date triggered, just to make sure that we have all the dates properly aligned and everything is working as intended. So let's test the button add coffee. So this day, Saturday, clearly has 0 coffees inside. So if we press add coffee here, daily progress will increase and the coffee actual has increased. You can see additions coffee. Pressing another one will be triggering in 2 coffees and the coffee daily goal being met because it's part of the coffee goal. So it's really important that you add all of these. So once we're pressing more buttons, add coffee, and we can add a couple of more, we will be fulfilling our daily goal, which will be indicated by the check mark that you can see by next to the coffee. So this is how that button works. So now we're going to be doing the same for the walk, and we're going to be doing the same for the exercise. So first we're going to be saying walk. I need the walk icon. So let's say add walk. So we're going to be changing this to add walk, and I have to make sure that it sounds like, going walking rather than having a walk. Right, so adding automation, add page, and the only thing that we need to change really is the template that we are using. It's really that simple. So that's the way how it looks, and it actually makes sure that we are, let's just duplicate the add walk, and then we're going to be saying add exercise, which is basically the same thing. Now, I don't expect that I will be using these buttons much, but I'm personally a forgetful guy, and I tend to forget a lot that I have to update things, so going back into these pages and actually making sure that I could follow up and modify my goals that were in the past is actually quite valuable. So the next thing that I would like to do is I actually don't like how my day looks at the moment. So we're going to beautify it a little bit by customizing the layout. Pressing the customize layout, we can actually do a lot more with this design and make it a lot more beautiful. So what we're gonna do is we want to be pinning the most important properties and also the tabbed approach, because that will allow us to put additions as a separate table. Just look how cool they look. So now it's easy to separate between the report and the actual tables that are, related to it. So now we're going to be pinning some properties. We're going to be pinning Saturday. We need to know which date it was. And we want to know our daily progress, obviously. So let's see, daily progress. Yeah, there we go. So let's add a couple of sections because I want to have my goals separate. Because I need to be able to modify them. And when it comes to goals, let's put them all under one umbrella. So we have let's just show the properties. Let me just say, okay, goals, we have coffee goal. There we go. Then we have the walk goal. Then we have the exercise goal. And those are the goals that are quantifiable. If you want to modify the values, how many you want them per day, and then we have new food after 6 p.m. and then we're gonna be putting the floss under the property group. So let's add another section, which will be the actuals. So that one will be showing how many actual times we have had coffee and how many times we have had a walk, how many we exercised, and so on. So actuals contain the actual values. It's those counters that we've been implementing like half an hour back. So yeah, so coffee actual, walk actual, exercise actual, and then we're going to be putting goals on top. And then I'm thinking even we might want to have a report of some sort. So because we do have coffee report, exercise report, and walk report, so we might as well put those values somewhere. So let's add another section, and that section we're gonna calling reports, because I think reports would be actually really good. So let's say we call it the daily report. And we do have these beautiful values that we've designed, coffee report, which says coffee 2 out of 2, which is kind of cool. Exercise report 0 out of 0. I'm pretty ashamed of myself. What can I tell you? And then walk report, which actually tells me how many times I've walked. So, and those we're going to be putting always show, because when you open up an individual page, you really want to see this report. You want to know how are you progressing. So daily progress is more like a summary, while this is more of a concise report. And we can actually put the new food after 6 p.m. rather than goals. We want to have them as part of the actual report. Now we need to think where we would be placing the buttons, add coffee, add walk, and add exercise, because I'm thinking can either have a dedicated section for them, or I could be pinning them all the way up, because when I open up a day, then they have 3 buttons. So this is something worth investigating. So let's just first see how it looks. Saturday, here we have our additions and we have our report. Coffee, exercise, goals, so we can edit them, and actuals are hidden because at the moment I really don't care about them at this moment. So yeah, I'm pretty happy how it looks, but we can still improve it. So let's see, we're gonna try and pinning the add coffee, add walk, but I'm missing the exercise. If you only have 2 habits, then this will work for you. Otherwise, I have to get rid of either of daily progress or the date. And I'm thinking daily progress I might put under the daily report. I'm not a big fan of it, but it could work. So that's definitely something that we might want to trigger if I want all 3 buttons to be available. Yeah, let's unpin the daily progress, because daily progress I feel could be a part of the actual daily report. And let's put add exercise, because these 3 buttons, you really want them have them at your fingertips. Add coffee, add walk, and add exercise. So look, when we're just pressing those buttons, it's really important on the mobile. On the mobile, I think this would be even better. So this is sort of like optimizing for the mobile as well. We have to think about it because on phone it looks a little bit different. So, and I'm using it mainly on my phone. So let's move the daily progress under the daily report, because I think that's the best place where it should be. So if we go like this, then the whole of the report actually makes sense, and I'm actually really liking how this looks at the moment. Let's just, for the sake of the discussion, put the daily progress first, because then we have the daily progress, add coffee, add walk, but then we need to have a separate date. And date we can actually put as a separate property group, or maybe we put it under the daily report. Yeah, it actually just, this actually looks also kind of cool. Date March 24, 2025, daily progress is summarized above, and we have the buttons to add coffee, walk, and exercise, which I think is actually kind of cool. So at this point, just to clean things up, I have added the final group, which will be rest, where I'm gonna be just dumping the things that I don't want people to see, and those are always gonna be hidden. Now let's apply this to all pages and just take a look how it looks. Look, Monday, we have the date, March 24th, we have our additions, so we know what we did add, and we can add an additional walk, which updates our daily progress and updates our daily report. I think that actually this looks pretty nice, and I'm very happy with the design. Just remember, Coffee and Habit Tracker will be purchasable and available to get from my Gumroad store. There you have it, folks. Hope you liked today's video, in which case I would really appreciate a thumbs up to, highlight this video so it can spread to more people. As a final tip, we can actually put the daily goals to be past 2 weeks, because this will give us a nice chart that won't be too condensed, and it will still look really relevant and keep the motivation high. So past week or past 2 weeks, I would think would be the ideal placement for this. Alright, hope you liked today's video. Press a like so it spreads to more people, and I will be seeing you in the next one. Thanks for watching.